so Mike Kinsella, um, and his 11th album, Falls of Sioux. So, Kiley's pick. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I think as we discussed with Lies ranking so high last year, um, that it's a required follow up to listen to Owen, who I've gone into this many times, but Mike Kinsella is one of my all time favorite musicians, whether it's American football or Captain Jazz or there. But in the end, it's always uh, you know, coming home when there's an Owen album, and it's hard to believe that this is the 11th Owen record plus a few fantastic EPs along the way. Um, and you know you you always I always wonder, like, this many albums in, can Mike Kinsella sustain um the same themes over and over. There's always a lot of self-hatred and um family talk and alcohol abuse and that kind of thing. And it's just this album, once again, it's it's just fantastic. I think it's a great follow-up to the Avalanche, which I think I don't have an Owen album that I think is weak, but I think the Avalanche was, a very nice place for Mike Kinsella to be with his solo career. And so having the Falls of Sioux here and still working with S. Carey and Zach Hansen, who, I think most people know their work with Bon Iver. Um, they've added this perfect amount of lush richness to the music. Sometimes with Bon Iver, you know, he's gone into some places that it's not my thing, but this is a good partnership with Mike Kinsella. And even though the lyrical themes are the same, I think musically, um, we're still getting fresh territory. I think especially A Reckoning is a fantastic opening track with kind of a Western feel to it. Um, Boku, great first single, had it on the podcast playlist when it was released. And it fits the vibe of the rest of the record. I think Hit and Run too is another great single, even if it is heavy, and it essentially boils down to you can't run from your genetics. uh, but that, and then I really I love the back half of this record as well. I think it's Mount Cleverest that really surprised me with almost a Led Zeppelin 3 feel to it. Just the big drums and open tunings. And I was driving around the other day listening to this record for the nth time and just had like this this stupid mental image of Robert Plant trying to sing some Owen lyrics. The music is there, but I don't know if Robert Plant would be the right um, person to deliver the message. That, and then the final track, With You Without You, I think kind of saving the best for last. Um, I I think it's Penny is the one track that it, for me, kind of hasn't picked up steam at this point. Um, but 11 records plus all the other projects, Mike Kinsella is a machine. And I am always happy to go to therapy with him whenever he's got a new record out.
And I know Karl is as well. You can continue in that vein next.
Yeah, so probably the least surprising news ever. I absolutely adore this album. It's very quickly become Death Taxes, Mike Kinsella making one of my favorite records of the year. So yeah, as I said in like my review for 5 to 9, and you've just said it as well, he's never made a bad record, but I think this, recent Purple Patch is the best music he's made his whole career, from, American Football 3 to The Avalanche to obviously Lies last year and now to this. Each record, very much carrying, as you say, Kiley, his stamp, his DNA. But, each one of those projects just completely different sounds, moods, feelings. And, he kind of mentioned it in his press material for this one as well. Like, if The Avalanche was like his winter, then the Falls of Sioux is his spring. So, lyrically, it's like he's come to terms more with his divorce, where there was only like devastation to be found on The Avalanche. On this one, there's, these droplets of like wit and humor, which sort of carries like this air of acceptance, this has happened for these reasons and, it's probably for the best, it's kind of got that air to it throughout, it's not worked out for me. I'm tired of being sad. I'm going to try to be a bit more positive, but still, there is that, as you say, kind of a bit of self-loathing, and he's still got that in there as well. So, yeah, that's lyrically the mood that I think we find him in here. But the sonics, there is, for me, as moving, as exquisitely arranged as anything he's pulled together before. I kind of touched on in my review as well. Like, I was curious to see how like the experimentation from Lies would carry it onto this record. And, while he's not throwing kazoos in there or going off on these electronic tangents, you could definitely hear, like the boundaries have kind of been pushed further back. So, and I think the case in point with that is the opening track, A Reckoning. I remember listening to that for the first time, immediately messaged you guys about it. And it was like, I had to pause the album at that moment because I was so taken with it on that first play. Those big, like, tubular bells, that, like, southern guitar twang, that opening line about traveling with more dirty laundry in his case that he's had since he was 21. It was just like, holy shit.
Still smells like the thrift store where he rescued it from.
It was just a holy shit moment. I was like, incredible. And I think, to be honest, I think that first play, like, nothing competed with that track and then Bo Coop as well, which I'd enjoyed. But I think at that point, I probably didn't. No, I mean, those two I'd say were my highlights, but I think the rest of it, I think I even said to you guys, it's maybe one of his weakest ones at this point. But yeah, the more I came back to it, the more I loved about it. The poetry and the strings on Virtue Misspent, brilliant track. You mentioned Mount Cleverest and Led Zeppelin. I saw like shades of Radiohead, particularly like in Rainbow's era, Radiohead.
Sure.
On that one, but yeah, now you've said Led Zeppelin, I can definitely hear that as well. Penny wasn't the one. I think that was one that I read. I'm not sure if you shared it actually, Andrew. Like the interview with Mike, and it was him saying that it's like one of his like closet or sleeper hit songs. It's just really simple for the most part, but then like that arrangement that comes in at the end. It's just utterly gorgeous right at the end. And then, like you say, With You, Without You has, I think, like deliberate notes of the edge in the guitars coming through. I mean, he's definitely done that on purpose. It's like Mike Kinsella does U2. Just like a really stunning finale. The horns coming in there, and it just has like this quiet epicness about it, which I just love. So yeah, I mean, I won't gush over it anymore. I think we've done that between us. So I'll just finish by saying, I said to you guys, for me, this was like a similar record to Grian's from last year. obviously not stylistically, but in terms of, you know, a one-of-a-kind songwriter, keeping it relatively simple, but at the same time, just doing it better than anybody else right now. I think, you know, 9 songs, not a moment wasted. And, you know, yeah, it's another record like that one that's like near flawless for me.
And then coming on to less of a believer, as it were. I feel like you got like the believers that it's onto the agnostic guy here. Yeah, I mean, we've referred to Lies from last year, and that took a while for me to get into more by the end of the year. But it wasn't an album which I loved. I felt there were really great moments on there, and that was my introduction to the world of the Kinsellas. This is a chance to hear what Kylie you were pleading about. You know, try Owen. don't give up now. That's it. So here we go. We're back a year later, a year and a little bit, and yeah, it's better. Like for me, definitely.
All right.
Praise be.
I'd say on that front, I'm probably edging closer. You know, maybe on each project, it's gonna sort of curve up, and maybe then at some point I will get to your levels of fandom with the Kinsellas. But yeah, like, you know, I think you mentioned that some of the highlights for me, a Reckoning. I was put in mind of Metallica's The Unforgiven, with the bells and the real, you know, orchestra type guitar at the beginning, so dramatic. It just sort of draws you in, and you think, okay, yeah, good start. I'll take that. And then Baku, as you say, Kylie, you picked that for the March playlist, and I thought, yeah, it's an okay song. And then actually on listening to it a few times here, this is fantastic. I just love the guitars here, and you know, Karl, you said exquisite as one of your adjectives for the album. You know, I think lush. It's got all those sort of elements to it. It's really diving into this, very kind of deliberately arranged output here, which with Baku, I know they're disgraced now, but it reminded me of Red House Painters, which based on my previous listening was a positive. Cursed Id, I thought it was ID, but Id was showing up in the Brooklyn Vegan article when he was going through all the tracks. That was one which, you know.
Did you not take any philosophy classes?
I know what the Id is. Yeah, but it's just one of those things you sort of see it, and instantly my brain goes cursed ID. Okay, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And then it was only reading that. So the article where I realised it wasn't ID. But in terms of the lyrics and the theme here, you know, it's kind of, you know, he hasn't always been the best of people. He's kind of looking back, but he wouldn't change a thing. And I just thought that was a really nice kind of let it be moment, I suppose. I mean, one of the key things I would pull out from the Lies record is that the lyrics are just very interesting and very readable, very listenable in that sense. And this continues. So I can see definitely that element of Mike Kinsella's music being a draw. And I mean, the absolute highlight is Mount Cleverest, just to add to the chorus of voices on that one. But it is just, it's so different from anything else on this album as well. And it just stands as a peak, I suppose, to dive into, you know, Mount talk. But yeah, it's even with the lyric, "I'll only come on command." I mean, it's quite something, this song, and just how it's all put together. You say Led Zeppelin, you say Radiohead, Karl, so yeah, there's lots of influences which have meshed together just to bring something so lovely, even with such lyrics. And after that peak is just where I get lost a little bit with this, and I would say is With You Without You I didn't like as much as you guys really. Again, I enjoyed the theme of it, I enjoyed the lyrics, but it wasn't as enjoyable as other songs on the album. Qui je plaisante. Yeah, just drifted a little bit for me, and maybe because that's the one which comes immediately after Mount Cleverest, it's really difficult to maintain those levels. But that for me, you know, if I'm going to give much of a draw, and overall, I'm saying that this is a very good album, which I've really enjoyed, and like I say, I'm not gonna say that, you know, I'm preaching the Mike Kinsella gospel just yet, but I'm certainly getting there, and this is an album which is going to be a bridge if I'm ever going to get to that level of fandom and appreciation. But yeah, you know, Hit and Run is a really great song off here as well, as you referred to. So yeah, overall, yeah, very impressive. And finally, you know, I see a little bit more of what the fuss is about, and your devotion to what was it in the article, Karl? It was the godfather of emo. Is that the
of Midwest emo? Yeah,
of Midwest emo. Yeah. There we go. I'm starting to see it.
You could at least describe yourself as Mike Kinsella curious.
Very apt. Yeah, the goodbye curious, which you refer to. Yeah, we'll stick to the humorous version of that one. But yeah. So Mike Kinsella curious. Lovely way to end our review, and yeah, really positive from us all there.